Throughout the history of warfare, innovation and secrecy have always played a vital role in shaping the balance of power. During the Second World War, as Nazi Germany faced pressure from all sides, desperation drove its scientists, engineers, and military leaders to seek solutions far beyond conventional thinking. Hidden deep within underground facilities, cloaked in classified documents, and whispered about in the halls of intelligence agencies, the Third Reich pursued a range of unusual and advanced weapons that sparked both real historical breakthroughs and persistent myths. Today, we will separate truth from myth, fact from fiction, and examine how close Nazi Germany truly came to developing hidden weapons that could have dramatically changed the outcome of World War II. As early as the mid-1930s, German planners understood that the next war would rely on speed, reach, and advanced technology. This belief led to the development of one of the most verified and undeniable examples of hidden German advancement, the jet engine. While Allied forces were still relying entirely on propeller-driven aircraft, German engineers succeeded in producing the Messerschmitt Me-262, the world's first operational jet fighter. The Me-262 was extraordinarily fast and maneuverable, able to outrun anything in the sky. It was armed with heavy cannons that shredded Allied bomber formations. It was more advanced than anything the opposing forces had, representing a real and documented threat. However, Hitler's insistence on modifying it into a fighter bomber, along with material shortages, production delays, and failed logistics, prevented widespread deployment. The truth is that the Me-262 was real and dangerous, but the myth that thousands could have been built is exaggerated. Industrial collapse and Allied bombing made mass production impossible. Another very real example of hidden German weaponry was the V-2 rocket. Developed under the direction of Wernher von Braun, this rocket became the world's first long-range guided ballistic missile. It traveled faster than sound and struck targets without warning. This weapon represented a major technological leap. Its advanced gyroscopic guidance system and propulsion design were the foundation for future space exploration programs after the war. Thousands of V-2 rockets were produced secretly in underground facilities carved by forced labor. However, despite their sophistication, the rockets did not arrive in large enough numbers to change the strategic landscape. The truth is that the V-2 was revolutionary, but the myth that it could have single-handedly won the war has no realistic foundation. Its psychological effect was far greater than its tactical value. There were also hidden plans for even more extreme artillery projects. One such project, known as the V-3, aimed to create a massive multi-chambered cannon capable of launching explosive shells more than 100 miles. Its intended target was the heart of London. The weapon was partially constructed in enormous underground tunnels in northern France. Allied bombers eventually destroyed the site before it became operational. The truth is that this supergun was real, but the myth that it was fully functional is not supported by evidence. It was never completed and never fired in combat. In the realm of naval warfare, Nazi Germany pursued hidden technologies such as advanced submarines. The Type XXI U-boat, developed in the final stages of the war, introduced battery and hull design improvements that allowed it to stay submerged far longer than earlier submarines. Its streamlined shape was far more advanced than anything used by the Allies. This submarine foreshadowed the modern design of underwater vessels. However, the myth that entire fleets of these submarines patrolled the seas is not accurate. Only a handful were operational by the time Germany surrendered. As desperation grew, Nazi scientists explored more radical concepts. One area where myth and truth blur involves anti-aircraft defenses. There were experiments using acoustic detection, infrared tracking, and early missile guidance systems. Some of these technologies were successful prototypes documented in historical archives. Others, however, grew into myths claiming Germany developed laser-like weapons or death rays capable of burning aircraft out of the sky. While blueprints exist for concentrated energy mirrors and high-frequency sound devices, no successful deployment ever happened. The truth is that Nazi engineers attempted experimental energy weapons, but the myth that operational death rays existed is fiction. Among the most notorious legends is the rumored development of flying disc-shaped aircraft. Supporters of the myth claim German scientists created anti-gravity propulsion systems, sometimes referred to as field engines, capable of incredible maneuverability. Alleged names of these projects include the Haunebu and Vril discs. Photographs have been circulated for decades showing circular craft. Most historians believe these images are manipulated or misidentified experimental airframes. There was a real scientific interest in vertical takeoff and unconventional aerodynamics, but there is no verified evidence that Nazi Germany successfully built or flew disc-shaped aircraft. The truth is that some wartime sketches explored radical aircraft shapes, but the myth of fully operational flying saucers remains unsupported by reliable documentation. One of the most mysterious hidden weapons allegedly developed by Nazi Germany is the so-called Die Glock, or the bell. Witness accounts describe a large bell-shaped device filled with rotating cylinders and powered by a mysterious purple substance. Some testimonies describe severe radiation poisoning among researchers. Supporters of the myth argue that Die Glock was an early attempt to manipulate gravity or generate free energy. Skeptics claim it was part of a conventional high-powered centrifuge experiment. Firm evidence is scarce. Many documents were destroyed near the end of the war, and key figures involved in such research disappeared. The truth is that something was being developed in Silesia under extreme secrecy, but the myth that it was a functional gravitational device lacks concrete proof. Another recurring myth claims that Nazi Germany developed super tanks so massive that they could flatten entire cities. There is a kernel of truth here. The Maus tank was a real project. It weighed nearly 200 tons and featured very thick armor. However, it was too heavy to cross most bridges and too slow to operate effectively. Only 2 prototypes were built. Other designs, such as the Landkreuzerrat Rat, were never constructed beyond paper concepts. The truth is that Nazi engineers considered enormous armored vehicles, but the myth that dozens rolled across the battlefield is entirely fabricated. As the war continued, rumors spread of Nazi chemical and biological weapons. The German government did conduct research in these fields. However, there is little evidence that mass delivery systems were ever completed. The mythology surrounding Nazi biological weapons became exaggerated after the war. While some agents were tested, there is no proof that widespread deployment occurred. The truth is that Nazi Germany had the capacity to produce chemical agents, but often refrained because they feared Allied retaliation. One of the most enduring legends involves secret Antarctic bases supposedly built by the Germans. The myth claims U-boats transported equipment and personnel to hidden valleys beneath the ice. Supporters cite a 1938 expedition and later unexplained military operations near Antarctica. However, historical records indicate the expedition was primarily for scientific research and whaling surveys. There is no verified infrastructure or base discovered by any reliable expedition. The truth is that Nazi Germany explored Antarctica, but the myth of a fully operational underground base remains unsupported. Another area where myth and history collide concerns the occult. The SS had a division known as the Ahnenerbe, which conducted pseudoscientific research into ancient cultures. Some interpret this as evidence of occult weaponry or supernatural technology. However, there is no firm evidence that witchcraft, runes, or rituals were used to design weapon systems. The truth is that Nazi ideology included mystical elements, but the myth that spells or magical artifacts influence weapon development is fiction. When considering hidden Nazi weapons, the truth often remains stranger than the myths. Germany did develop night vision technology, guided munitions, early cruise missiles, cluster weapons, and new alloys. Many of these inventions became the foundation of modern warfare. Yet the myths surrounding these technologies exaggerate their power and spread. For example, there were guided glide bombs used successfully against Allied ships. These weapons were precursors to modern smart bombs. Their existence is fully documented. The myth, however, claims hundreds of ships were lost to them, when in reality only a handful were targeted successfully. Another real but often overlooked weapon was the Verstal X-4, an air-to-air guided missile controlled by wires. It was designed to disrupt bomber formations and could have been devastating. Although successful in testing, it was never deployed in large numbers. The myth that these missiles downed dozens of Allied bombers is inaccurate. Production difficulties and air superiority issues prevented widespread use. As the war ended, intelligence agencies from both the United States and the Soviet Union raced to capture German scientists and documents before they could be destroyed or hidden. Operation Paperclip transported many German engineers to the United States, where they contributed to missile programs and aerospace engineering. Meanwhile, Soviet forces seized vast archives and materials. The truth is that both superpowers desired hidden Nazi knowledge. The myth that one side obtained all secret projects is untrue. Technologies and personnel were scattered widely. Some legends speak of time machines, teleportation experiments, or dimensional devices. These myths evolved largely after the war, fueled by science fiction and Cold War paranoia. There is no evidence in historical archives or credible testimony that Nazi Germany researched time travel. The truth is that no such program existed, but the myth is persistent because it captures the imagination. What makes Nazi hidden weapons difficult to evaluate is the destruction of documentation in the final months of the war. Orders were given to burn classified archives. Scientists fled or disappeared. Many underground facilities were demolished. Such actions leave gaps that speculation quickly fills. The truth is that historical records are incomplete. The myth arises from curiosity chasing missing pages. Some hidden weapons were intentionally abandoned because they were impractical. Giant cannons, super heavy tanks, and exotic energy devices failed because they consumed too many resources. The truth is that Nazi leadership often pursued grandiose dreams instead of useful designs. The myth of unstoppable superweapons ignores the realities of logistics, fuel shortages, and battlefield conditions. Still, it would be misleading to dismiss every story as myth. German scientists created technologies decades ahead of their time. The swept-wing jet design influenced modern fighter aircraft. The guidance systems of rockets influenced modern missile programs. Their research into submarines shaped post-war naval design. The truth is that Nazi hidden weapons helped form the technological foundation of the Cold War arms race. The myth claims these inventions remained secret. In reality, many became public after 1945. The fascination with Nazi hidden weapons comes not only from their uniqueness, but from the fear that they might have worked. Victory makes myths grow. The idea that the Third Reich almost unleashed weapons beyond imagination fuels speculation. It gives history a dramatic edge. The truth is that they came close in some fields, but the myth exaggerates how near they truly were. Ultimately, the study of hidden weapons is a lesson in how far a government might push science when cornered. It shows what happens when ethics collapse and ambition runs unchecked. Technologies that should have advanced civilian progress instead became tools of destruction. The legacy of these hidden weapons is not only technological, it is philosophical. It forces us to ask who should control innovation and how transparency prevents abuse. Today, historians continue to unearth new documents. Archaeologists explore sealed bunkers. Engineers analyze surviving prototypes. Each discovery adds a small piece to a massive puzzle. Yet many details remain vague. The truth is that time and secrecy create an environment where myths thrive. The myth endures because imagination fills what evidence cannot satisfy. There is value in understanding both truth and myth. Truth illuminates the reality of technological advancement. Myth reveals how societies cope with fear and fascination. Together, They explain why hidden Nazi weapons remain one of the most discussed topics in modern history. The truth is that hidden weapons existed, but they were often limited by resources and practicality. The myth claims that they were unstoppable machines that almost changed the world. History shows that even advanced weapons cannot overcome strategic failure, poor leadership, and logistical collapse. As we look back at the hidden weapons of Nazi Germany, we learn that progress and danger often walk hand in hand. We see how scientific breakthroughs can be twisted by ideology. And we understand that myths persist where documents burn and witnesses disappear. The real hidden weapon is not a device or a tank. It is the mystery itself. It hides in lost pages and sealed archives, in whispered testimony and classified reports, forever fueling speculation. In the end, separating truth from myth is more than historical curiosity. It is a reminder that the pursuit of power through science without moral restraint leads to devastating consequences. It teaches us that technology alone cannot win a war. Strategy, resources, ethics, and humanity matter far more. As long as unanswered questions remain, the hidden weapons of Nazi Germany will continue to cast a long and unsettling shadow across the fields of history, inviting us to search deeper and think critically about the power and peril of secret innovation.